recent changes we've made to the attribute system, there's some new options when importing your data. You may now enhance the attribute with a date and a value. I'm going to import the spreadsheet you see in front of you right now, and in this I've got some just regular columns for last name, first name, and so on. I've got a simple column for cat breed, and I've color-coded these columns to show how they're sort of grouped together. My cat breed column is an attribute folder onto its own. I want a folder named cat breed, and within it some items named as you see in this list. In the columns next to it, I've got some education columns here. So I've got a column for highest education, a major, a graduation date, and the highest GPA earned. For that, I'm going to have a folder created from this, a subfolder created from this column, and then to that major I will add a graduation date and the highest GPA as a date and a value. So notice what I'll be mapping to. Up on here in the first row I've indicated what I'll be mapping to for each of these. The cat breed I'll be mapping to attribute name. The highest education I'll be mapping to attribute folder name, followed by the attribute name, attribute date, and attribute value. So these four items can be clustered together during an import. I'm going to add some additional columns in here, one for an attribute value just only on the badge ID. It's a unique ID associated with a badge, and I'm going to create an attribute item for that, and each of the donor or voter records that you're importing will have this unique ID assigned to it. Now over here I might think if I can do it for a value, maybe I can do it for a date, but the reality is you cannot. So you can't just import a single date column by itself and attach it to the attribute builder date. For that you do have to begin with an attribute name folder and then an attribute date. So let's take a look in my database as to what I've currently got for attributes. I've got 3 folders right now: example, not, and source. When I am done, I will have folders for my cat breed, and within it I'll have these items. I'll have a folder for the various high school education, either high school, not, graduate, or college. And within each of those there will be a folder. And by the way, you'll notice where on the high school here where there was no major declared, I've indicated the major as not applicable. If you're going to have if you're going to have a folder name, you must have an attribute name occupied on every single cell. You cannot leave these blank. The date and the value can be left blank, but not the item over here. There'll be a folder for not a folder, there'll be an attribute item called badge ID with these unique entries in there. And then lastly, there'll be a folder named first registration date, which will contain an item called first registration date with the reg date. Let's go take a look at that import mapping and see how that's going to work. I've provided a name for the file that I'll be importing. I'm going to now give it a source attribute. I'll match up my columns. I'll make the screen a little bit larger so we can see what we are mapping to. And I'll begin the mapping. So my first one, cat breed, is going to be mapped to attribute name. The next 4 items are going to be grouped together, so that's going to be folder name first, then followed by major map to name, followed by graduation date matched to attribute builder date, and a value here. My badge ID is going to go to just a value column, and that'll create a attribute item with unique values in it. And then my first registration date is going to be a attribute name folder. That'll create the folder and an item within it, and then on each of those items will be the unique date of registration for the first registration date value or name. I'll click OK to move to the third and final step. Proceed with the import. When it's complete, click OK. I'm going to reopen a brand new search so that it rereads the attribute tree. And you'll notice now I had that badge ID column, which looked like this, badge ID with unique entries in it. So I have a badge ID item. I have a cat breed folder, and within that I have several different items. I have my highest education folder. Now that was the main folder. Within that, I'm going to see some subfolders for the various schools. I see college, and within the college, I'm going to see the various majors. Graduate school, various majors. High school is not going to have any majors to it. And then they did not attend high school. Again, there's no majors. To view, let's say I want to view the badge ID for these people. First I'll search my list. There's the 110 records I just imported. I've got some columns here that I don't need. I'm going to squeeze these down for the moment. I'm going to go to Format, Attributes. I'm going to come up to my badge ID. Now I don't really need to list the setting or the date. What I really want to see is the note value that was entered in there. Choose OK, and there is the badge IDs associated with each person. So Kelly Amberg was 949-800. Kelly Amberg's badge ID is 949-800. I can continue to add more form or attribute items from up here if I choose. So maybe I'd like to see the cat breeds as well. I can select cat breeds, and I can start to check these items, and I'll just check a couple just so that you can see. Here the check marks are for the American Curl, the American Short Hair, American Wire Hair, and again I can see which ones have those check marks, check boxes.